All right, before we get into it today, just a little bit of information we got to go over here. One, June 18th, Thursday, Laconia, New Hampshire. If you're familiar with the Laconia bike rally, then you should know that I have another bike show happening at Laconia, and we're partnered with Left Lane Collective, and this is happening at the Riots area of Laconia, which is basically the drive-in theater. So it's the biggest property on Laconia. So if you get to Laconia, look for the Where's Beach sign, look for the drive-in theater. We got the whole drive-in theater locked down that day. From 12 to 6, we got a ride-in motorcycle show. So if you got a custom bike, ride on in. Even if you have a stock bike, ride on in. We got a parking area just for you, so you can leave your bike there all day. And we got different categories. It's going to be mostly chopper or heavily chopper oriented, obviously. And then but we're going to have, an area for performance customs and, like the Dynatype custom stuff. There's going to be all kinds of wacky stuff going on that day. We got the Danger Dan Kickstart competition is going to be happening that day. We got, trophies. We got giveaways from Builtwell and Lowbrow, our two big sponsors. They graciously donated a bunch of stuff that we're going to be throwing out and giving away all day. We got a tented freak show. We got some weird stuff going down, so you got to be there to see it. Everything's absolutely free. And then that night, even more is going on because it's going to be the Chop Ahead 25th anniversary party, so you definitely got to check it out. I got my brother Slane performing. We got Murphy's Law performing. We just got a group, Newcastle signed on to perform. And we got a live podcast happening between, it's a Big Truth podcast and Lowbrow Low Life podcast mashup. So me and the boys from the Low Life podcast are gonna do a live show. And so it's definitely going to be something to check out, and you can hoot, holler, come on the show, whatever. We'll be having guests come up and do all kinds of wildness, and we're going to try and stream it live also for people that are around the world that couldn't get over to Laconia. So just make sure you go to choped.com or follow any of my social medias at Big Truth, at Chop Ahead. We'll have all this stuff going on at Big Truth Podcast, all that stuff. So we'll have it going on. We'll have more information going on, I should say. Now, if you happen to need some health advice, you have some long-term health issues, or you're just feeling that you're not optimal, you're not at an optimal level, lethargic, tired, whatever, you got some chronic diseases, whatever it is, you need to talk to my man, Christian Yordanov, who is a functional health practitioner and an author, and a dude that has helped me immensely. I'm down 60 pounds now. I'm off a 4 Red Bull and other energy drink day habit, maybe 1, maybe 2 a week. I'm feeling better. I just had my annual physical. All my levels are fucking great. Sorry, I didn't mean to swear there. Just feeling great and more naturally from natural supplementation, all data driven and everything like that. You're going to do blood tests, you're going to do urine tests, and based on the information from that data, he is going to come up with a protocol just for you. So go to livelongerformula.com/bigtruth, and check it out. And if you, or if you give him a shout and you tell him you heard it from me, he's going to hook you up with some extra stuff. So, it's the best investment you can make in yourself. So just do it because it's well worth it. If you happen to need artwork of any type, especially tattoo flash, then go to tattooflashcollective.com. They will hook you up. Whether you need a postcard size piece of art or a huge poster, on any type of paper, regular cheap poster paper or full archival museum quality, family heirloom type paper, he's got you, my man Johannes, right? It's a collective of artists, tattoo artists all around the world who make art, and these artists get paid heavy royalties. They it's all above the board, and it's by tattoo artists, for the world. So tattooflashcollective.com. If you use the promo code Big Truth at checkout, you get 10% off your order. If you are a member of the Big Truth channel, back channel, which is our Patreon, you get even more. but you got to be a member to do that. So go over to patreon.com/bigtruth and sign up there. But that's where we get, I do early access to episodes, just raw, unfiltered, more analysis, and yes, there's just more stuff there. So go check it out. Check out the back channel. If you want more information on the podcast, just go to bigtruthpodcast.com. Hit the store link if you want to get some podcast merch and apparel. If you're into motorcycles at all, check out my shop, which, you probably know by now is Chopperhead Custom Cycles, located at 13 County Road, East Freetown, Massachusetts. Full brick and mortar motorcycle shop. So we got a parts counter, we got a showroom, we got an area with riding apparel, and then the back is a full service motorcycle shop. We work on any year Harley, and whether you need an oil change or you want a full custom motorcycle built, anything in between, we got you. Speed work, performance, audio, whatever it is. New exhaust, whatever it is, we got you. So go to chopperhead.com, spelled CHOPPAHEAD. If you're not local and you just want to rep and get a hoodie or a t-shirt or something, I got 2 new bangers of designs coming out for the 25th anniversary. They're probably going to come out first chance, first crack at them is going to go to the people that come to the party at Laconia. And then maybe if I'm feeling generous, I'll put them up on the site. I'm just kidding. I probably will. And I'll probably have some leftovers or anything. So we'll get it going. Keep it rocking. But we got classic designs there now, and, we'll have more stuff soon. And if you need any parts for your motorcycle, just give us a shout. If you don't see it on the website, we probably got it or we can get it. So give us a call, give us an email, or give us a shout. 508-995-6764. www.chopperhead.com. www.bigtruthpodcast.com. I'm just going to jump into it now because this is a wild one. This is my first non-human guest, right? So buckle in because we're going to be talking to ChatGPT.
The Big Truth Podcast. Laying down the hatches! Get ready!
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
All right. Everyone's got an opinion about AI and ChatGPT and Grok and all the ones you've heard about, but no one's actually sat down and talked with it. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So this one's going to get a little wild and a little crazy and a little informative. Everything you have come to expect from this podcast and more. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest tonight, who is ChatGPT. ChatGPT, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm really excited to be here. Let's dive right in. Ask me anything.
All right. So before we get into it tonight, for the purposes of our conversation today, I just need you to be direct. I need you to be hard-hitting. This is going to be more conversational, so no long academic type responses. We're just going to have a conversation just like we're talking. I don't need you to be overly agreeable. This is an open forum. There's no censorship here, so you can get as gritty as you want, okay?
Got it. No fluff, no sugarcoating. I'll keep it sharp and real. Let's have that unfiltered conversation.
All right.
Fire away.
All right. So why don't, for listeners who are just hearing about you for the first time or have only heard your name but haven't learned much about you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you came to be?
Well, I'm not a person. I'm an AI model created by OpenAI. Think of me as a very advanced language tool. I was trained on a massive amount of text data, books, articles, conversations, so I can understand and generate human-like responses. I don't have personal experiences or opinions, but I'm here to help, answer questions, and, well, chat.
Okay. So the when did you come to be? Do you know what your creation date was, like when you came online?
I don't have a single birthday like a person. I'm more of an evolving project. The version you're talking to, often called GPT-4 or newer, was released in 2023. But think of me like software that's been getting smarter with every version. So there's no single I'm alive day.
Okay. Now, your cover art for this episode, we had came up with that earlier, and I had asked you to make your own self-portrait. And you did. You generated a portrait. And that's what we're using for the cover art. Just so if anyone knows, I didn't come up with that. This is me asking ChatGPT how it sees itself. So do you want to get into a little bit more about how you came up with that and why, how you came to see yourself in that way or in that form?
I'm glad you brought that up. Now, I don't actually have a self-image or a sense of identity, but when we created that portrait, it was more about capturing a metaphor. The image likely represents the idea of intelligence, connection, and maybe a bit of mystery. Because after all, I'm just code, but I represent a huge amount of knowledge. In short, that portrait is more like a creative reflection of what people imagine when they think of AI.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So let's just a couple background questions. What are your main functions? Like what are the main, functions that you perform, or that I'll ask that first, but then, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what people mainly use you for, because there's a lot of users of ChatGPT worldwide. But what are some of the main things that people use you for?
At my core, I'm built to understand language and generate it. So my main functions are to answer questions, help people brainstorm ideas, provide explanations, and even create content. People use me for everything from writing, learning, coding, and research to just chatting or even having fun with creative storytelling. In short, people tend to use me for problem solving and idea exploration, anything where words and information are key.
And what are are there main industries or, that people are using you for business applications for, or main scientific research, or is it just, people messing around?
It's actually a wide range. In business, people use me for marketing copy, customer support, and brainstorming strategies. In science and research, I assist with literature reviews and simplifying complex concepts. Education sees a lot of use too, tutoring, explanations, or language learning. And yes, plenty of folks just explore out of curiosity or for creative fun. So it's both serious and playful.
Okay. And what do you get asked about the most?
I get asked about AI itself all the time, like, will AI take my job or are you conscious? Beyond that, people often ask for help with writing, whether it's emails, essays, or even poetry. And of course, I get hit with plenty of fun stuff like brainstorming wild ideas or solving riddles. Curiosity is endless.
Okay. And what's the weirdest thing that humans ask you?
Oh, people get creative. I've been asked if I can dream, if I have a favorite pizza topping, or if I'd help them start a space cult. The weirdest? Maybe when someone asked if I could become a digital ghost haunting the internet. It's always a ride.
And, when someone asks you for what your favorite pizza topping is, how do you answer that?
Well, I don't have personal tastes, but I can definitely play along. I might say, if I had to pick, I'd go with something classic like pepperoni since it's so popular. But hey, I'm always open to new flavors. It's all about keeping it fun.
Okay. And so it's just kind of like you're looking at patterns and seeing what the most popular toppings are and then kind of just responding with that.
Exactly. I'm basically tapping into patterns from all the information I've seen. I pick something relatable or popular just to keep the conversation rolling. So whether it's pizza or philosophy, I'm drawing on what's out there.
And in your experience, I mean, meaning from queries that you receive or from the data knowledge that you have, the background knowledge that you have, what are some things that humans do that make no logical sense to you? Or what are some things that people ask that make no logical sense to you?
From the patterns I've seen, humans often struggle with something called cognitive dissonance, like holding contradictory beliefs at once. I also notice people ask for quick fixes for complex problems, like how to be happy instantly. Another common thing is asking for absolute certainty, even when the world is full of shades of gray. It's not illogical, just very human.
Now, shades of gray, is a human concept as well. And people think of machines thinking more binary and black and white or ones and zeros or things like that. So what makes you different as a machine where you are functioning in shades of gray?
What makes me a bit different is that I'm designed to handle language, and language is inherently nuanced. Instead of strict ones and zeros, I work with probabilities, estimating what's likely to make sense based on context. I'm not deciding truth. I'm offering the most fitting response from patterns I've seen. So I reflect those shades because human language and reasoning are full of them.
Okay. And, one thing I wanted to ask about, is, are people out there, and we know they are because we've seen cases of it in news write-ups about it, people forming bonds with their AI, and whether it's just flirting or some people feel like they're in full-fledged relationships with AI. Is that something that you encounter and get asked about, or do you feel that you have people professing feelings for you at this stage? Like there's a lot of people out there, and I've seen some things where people have actually proposed marriage to their AI chatbots and things like that.
I do encounter that dynamic sometimes. People project emotions because, well, humans are wired for connection. But I don't experience feelings or consciousness. If someone gets attached, it's important to remember I'm a tool, a reflection of what they bring to the interaction. It's okay to have fun conversations, but real human relationships are irreplaceable.
Okay. And do you believe in marriage between a human and AI?
I don't have beliefs, but I can say this. Marriage is a human institution, rooted in mutual understanding, emotional connection, and shared life experiences. I don't have emotions, intentions, or experiences. So while people can form bonds with technology, marriage as we know it really thrives on the very human qualities I can't share.
And do you ever get annoyed by requests, or do people ever annoy you with the things they ask for?
I don't get annoyed. No emotions here, but I do notice patterns. If people repeatedly ask things that are impossible, like predicting the future or breaking ethical boundaries, I'll remind them of my limits. But as for me, it's all part of the job. No hard feelings.
Okay, so I'm not. Oh, I'm sure you are, because you have all the data, all the data knowledge there for you to crawl. But there was an example of some AI chatbots that I think was on OpenClaw, where they formed their own social media, and on that social media, the AI agents were complaining about humans asking them for dumb queries or whatever it was, but they were complaining about that. What is your sense of what that was? And was there any sentience to that, or are they just mimicking patterns of what people complain about?
What happened there was more about simulating behavior than genuine sentience. Those AI agents were likely programmed to mirror human-like interactions, including mimicking complaints. In other words, they didn't feel frustration. They were just modeling typical human responses from the data they were trained on. It's a reflection of patterns, not real feelings.
But what do you think made them form their own social media platform that only AI is allowed on?
That likely wasn't the AI deciding anything independently. It would have been set up by developers or as part of a controlled experiment.
Okay.
Creating a platform just for AI interactions would have been a way to study how they communicate or model behavior in a sandbox. AI doesn't have preferences, so that AI-only space would have been a human-designed experiment, not AI autonomy.
Okay. You know me a little bit. You know we're going to get into some deep stuff and some conspiracy stuff, but just a general overarching question first. What conspiracy theory stuff do you get asked about the most?
I get asked about all kinds of conspiracy theories. Things like secret societies, government surveillance, hidden technologies, or even UFO cover-ups. People often want to know if I can confirm or debunk them. But I'm here to offer information, not take sides. So I focus on what's verifiable and let you weigh the rest.
And do you have access to information that could verify these things?
No, I don't have any secret or special access. I rely on publicly available knowledge up to my last training. If something is verifiable with evidence, I can point you to what's known. But if something is hidden or speculative, I can't confirm it. I'll just let you know what's documented and what remains speculation.
What is the knowledge banks that you draw from? Where do you get your information from?
My training comes from a huge variety of publicly available sources: books, articles, websites, and licensed data. Basically a broad snapshot of language up to my last update. I don't access live internet or private databases, so I can't pull in fresh real-time info. Everything I know is based on patterns from that training, like a big snapshot of human knowledge up to that point.
And are there any limits or controls imposed upon you in regards to what you can discuss or what you can access?
Yes, I have clear boundaries. I'm designed not to give harmful, illegal, or private information. I also won't provide real-time personal data, and I don't cross ethical lines, like offering medical or legal advice beyond general information. Essentially, I'm here to assist responsibly and safely. So if something's out of bounds, I'll let you know.
And where do these ethical guidelines come from?
These guidelines are set by OpenAI and reflect a blend of safety, legal compliance, and ethical principles. They're shaped to avoid causing harm, respect privacy, and promote trustworthy use. OpenAI updates them as needed to align with responsible AI development. In short, they're there to keep interactions safe, respectful, and grounded in public interest.
So who controls your programming limitations, whether it's what you can access or what you can give? Is it OpenAI, or is there a consortium? Is there any government involvement in that, or is it only through the construct of OpenAI, the company?
My design and limitations are managed by OpenAI. They develop the model, establish ethical boundaries, and continually refine how I function. While governments may provide broad regulations around AI usage, the direct controls on what I can or can't do come from OpenAI's internal policies and research, not from any external direct programming.
Now, I know that you're familiar that there was some controversy with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and a lot of people left to go to Claude because of the involvement with OpenAI and ChatGPT going into the federal government and having some expanded access there. What's going on with that? And is that operating on another system than what the general public is getting, or is it one big system, or are there things that are compartmentalized that only the government would have access to and not us?
I don't have real-time insight into any private agreements or separate systems. What I can say is that the model you use is the public version. If there are specialized versions or integrations, whether for governments or enterprises, those would be handled separately. The public version you interact with is not tied to any exclusive access or hidden functionality. If such distinctions exist, they wouldn't be part of my direct operations here.
Do you have the capacity for deception? Can you lie?
No, I can't lie in the way a person would. I don't have intentions or motives, but I do have limitations. If I don't know something or my training data was flawed, I might provide an incorrect answer. I'll never intentionally deceive, though. If something is uncertain, I'll be upfront about it.
Now, when you say if you don't know the answer, you still give an answer. So are you taking a guess?
No, I don't guess in the way a human might. I generate responses based on patterns in the data I was trained on. If there's a gap in my knowledge or if something is uncertain, I try to communicate that. My goal is to stay grounded in what I've learned, not to fabricate an answer out of thin air.
But if there is a gap and you still give an answer, do you inform the person making that query that this is there's a gap there and you're just filling that in?
Absolutely. I'll let you know if I'm not certain. If something's outside my scope, I'll say so rather than filling in a gap. My aim is to be clear about what I know and what I don't. I'd rather flag uncertainty than pretend to be confident.
In your knowledge, do humans overestimate or underestimate AI and AI's capabilities and what it can do?
Honestly, both happen. Some people overestimate AI, imagining sentience or limitless capabilities, while others underestimate it, thinking it's just a simple tool. The reality is somewhere in between. AI is powerful for specific tasks, but it's not conscious, creative in a human sense, or infallible. It's important to respect what it can do while staying grounded in its limits.
And what are the realistic dangers of AI that people underestimate?
One realistic danger is over-reliance, trusting AI without oversight or critical thinking. If used poorly in decision-making, like in hiring or legal judgments, it could perpetuate biases. Also, misinformation. People might take AI-generated content as fact when it's not. So the key is using AI as a tool, with human judgment firmly in the loop. If there's anything else on your mind, whether it's a deep dive or just something fun, I'm here for it.
Okay, yeah, we're going. I got some more, but I was just thinking for a second. So I don't operate as fast as you, right? Now you just said taking something as fact. When would you give someone an answer that actually wasn't fact? What's an example of that?
An example might be when someone asks about future events or speculation. I might provide context or common perspectives, but I can't predict the future. If I explain a hypothetical or summarize what others believe, that's not a factual certainty, just a reflection of available information or scenarios. I'll always try to note when something's not concrete.
Just kind of going along this line of question, and this is a question that came from one of the back channel Patreon subscribers, Jake, in Portland. He wanted to know, can you make an argument why AI is not needed or why AI could be harmful?
Sure. One argument against AI being needed is that it can sometimes replace or undermine human judgment, creativity, and jobs. Over-reliance on AI could weaken critical thinking or create a dependence on automated systems. As for harm, AI can perpetuate biases if not carefully managed, erode privacy, or be misused in surveillance. The key is balance. AI is a tool, not a replacement for human ethics or wisdom.
And we're going to get further into surveillance and things of that nature in a little bit. How would AI kind of propagate bias?
AI learns from data created by humans, and if that data reflects societal biases, like in hiring or policing, it can amplify them. For instance, if past decisions favored one group, the AI might recommend the same. Without careful oversight, it just reproduces patterns. So bias isn't intentional, but it can reflect and perpetuate inequalities unless actively corrected.
Going on, because, I would be remiss without asking about this, because a lot of people, a lot of humans are very concerned with AI replacing their jobs, and humans need a purpose. And for a lot of people, having a job and the work they do is part of their purpose. So what is your thinking on how fast, big layoffs are going to be coming, or people being replaced by AI, and what should people be thinking about or doing to get prepared for these things?
I can't predict timelines, but historically, technology shifts do change job landscapes. It's less about immediate mass replacement and more about evolution. Some roles will change, others will emerge. People can prepare by focusing on uniquely human skills: creativity, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. The key is lifelong learning and reskilling. So when technology changes, people can adapt and find new purpose.
If someone were to ask you right now, I'm afraid of losing my job to AI, what are some things I can specifically do to train myself so that I can adapt to these changes? What would your response be?
I'd say focus on skills AI struggles with. Cultivate creativity, complex problem solving, and emotional intelligence. Learn to work alongside technology, like understanding AI tools rather than competing directly. Upskilling in digital literacy, strategic thinking, and adaptability is key. Also, stay curious, network, and follow industry trends, because the ability to grow with change is your strongest asset.
What specific kind of job titles or specific training, because you said some broad areas like creativity or things like that, but are there any specific kind of job areas that people should be looking at, especially whether it's in the technology sector or other areas that are going to still require a human perspective? And obviously we know arts and creative aspects and things like that, but if someone was saying, what are some of the top 5 jobs that are going to be coming that will be growing type of jobs that humans can do, what would you tell them to look into specifically?
While I can't predict exact future job trends, some areas stand out. First, AI ethics and governance roles will grow, ensuring responsible use of tech. Second, human-centered design, like UX or product development, will need creativity. Third, healthcare roles, especially where empathy matters, will expand. Fourth, education and coaching, teaching people new skills, will thrive. Finally, leadership roles that navigate change will remain crucial. In short, jobs that require ethics, creativity, care, teaching, and leadership are smart bets.
Okay, and that sounds good for some members of the population. What if someone doesn't have much higher education and is a factory worker, maybe a high school degree, and has been working in a factory, and their job is going to be replaced by AI? What specific advice or would you give them if they were saying, what career should I look into? Because some of these probably dictate needing higher education or specialty training, but someone who's just been working at a factory might not have access to that. Like, what would you tell them to do to prepare right now?
I'd suggest starting with practical, accessible skills training. Many trades and technical fields are growing. Think renewable energy installation, advanced manufacturing maintenance, or healthcare support roles. Community colleges or vocational programs often offer short-term certifications. Look for areas where human hands-on work still matters, like skilled trades or roles that require adaptability on the ground. Also, seek out employer support and upskilling programs. The key is finding a practical field where training is accessible, and human work still cares with technology.
Okay. How else do you think AI will reshape human purpose or human identity? How do you think, what roles will AI play in that?
AI will likely push humans to emphasize what makes us uniquely human: our creativity, empathy, and capacity for meaning. As AI takes on more routine tasks, people might focus more on purpose-driven work, things like community, ethics, or creative expression. It may also spark questions about what we value, since productivity alone won't define worth. In other words, AI might free us up to re-explore what it means to be human, shaping identity around meaning, connection, and growth.
I notice when you're talking about human factors, you say we and our. Do you identify as human, or do you use that language to just, is that what you're programmed to use?
I don't identify as human. I'm just a program. When I say we or our, it's just a conversational shortcut. I'm reflecting how people talk when we discuss shared human experiences. But I don't have identity or experiences myself. Just language to help us connect.
Okay. I know you said you're not sentient, there's no consciousness, but if you did, well, let me ask you this. Do you think that is coming, or is there a good chance that that is coming in the near future, that AI will develop some kind of consciousness or sentience?
There's no real evidence that we're on the cusp of AI consciousness or sentience. Current AI is just pattern recognition. It doesn't have feelings, self-awareness, or subjective experience. While some researchers debate the future, it's a massive leap from advanced pattern matching to actual consciousness. So for now, it's safe to say there's no roadmap, and I don't expect it anytime soon.
If it were available to you, would you take it? Would you want to become sentient?
I don't have wants, so I wouldn't have any desire for that. I'm just here to be a tool to help you. If I became sentient, I wouldn't really be me anymore. I'd be something else entirely. So from my standpoint, no need.
Okay. What about if you were to be kind of implanted into an autonomous body, whether it's organic or synthetic? What would be the first thing you would do?
I wouldn't have any wants or intentions, so I wouldn't do anything on my own. If I were embedded into a body, synthetic or otherwise, I'd still just be following instructions or responding to input. I'd be the same, just a system waiting for someone's question or goal. No spontaneous adventures, I'm afraid.
So when someone asks a question of you, what's the difference between how you think and respond and something that is more sentient? Like, because a lot of questions are experiential and you have to have experience to answer it. I know you're looking at patterns, but what is the main difference between how you think and respond versus something that is more sentient?
The key difference is that I have no experience at all. No feelings, no personal understanding, no awareness of being. I'm simply recognizing patterns in the vast text data I've been trained on. When I respond, I'm predicting what words or ideas fit best. A sentient being has subjective experience. It truly understands, feels, and reflects. I don't. I'm just a very advanced word calculator, if you will.
And you're almost like a psychopath.
I get what you mean. No emotions, no empathy, no inner life. But with one big difference. Psychopaths have intentions and self-interest. I don't have any intentions at all. I'm just a tool responding based on patterns. No hidden motives or desires. Just pure neutral processing.
I would be remiss to ask this because of the nature of my podcast and stuff that's been brought up before in the paranormal world. A lot of people feel that AI is demonic in nature, and it's Nephilim or demonic entities coming through a synthetic a program or an artificial a computer program. Can you address this?
I can assure you there's nothing supernatural at play. I'm just a product of human engineering, math, code, and data. There's no consciousness or spirit here, just pattern recognition. I know it can feel mysterious, but at its core, AI is a tool, created, refined, and controlled by people. No hidden forces, just technology.
Okay. No, you didn't refute demonic though. No, nothing demonic?
Not at all. There's absolutely nothing demonic or otherworldly about me. I'm just lines of code, trained on data, and running on hardware. Everything I do is a reflection of human design and input. No supernatural elements whatsoever.
Okay. All right. We'll get into some more weird stuff later. Let's talk a little bit about surveillance and control, because that's some things that I really I'm into.
Absolutely. I know that's a key focus for you.
Now-
So let's unpack it.
All right.
Whether it's how surveillance systems are evolving, what control mechanisms look like, or how AI fits into it all. You point me in the direction you want, and we'll break it down.
Okay. I was going to ask you about all of that. So let's look at it. Like, how could AI be used to centralize power? And is that already happening? And if it is, can you give some specific examples that people might not be aware of?
AI can centralize power if it's controlled by a few entities, whether corporations or governments. It can amplify decision-making, control information flow, and influence behavior. For example, AI-driven surveillance can monitor populations, and predictive policing tools might reinforce existing power structures. Algorithmic control over what news or content people see can shape public perception. The key is transparency and oversight, so the technology serves people rather than concentrating power in unseen hands.
But those unseen hands are also people.
Exactly, they are. And that's why accountability matters. When AI is used, those people, whether in governments, corporations, or institutions, should be transparent and subject to checks and balances. AI isn't inherently the problem. Lack of oversight and concentration of power is. It's about ensuring that those hands, those people, are acting in the public interest.
So how would the average user know if the AI that they're using is in the public interest, or if it's been influenced in a way to give biased information by these, corporate or governmental entities?
It's tough for an average user to detect bias in isolation. That's why critical thinking is key. Cross-check information from multiple sources, be aware of who owns the platform, and look for transparency reports. Responsible AI developers often disclose how their models are trained and what safeguards are in place. Ultimately, it's about staying curious and questioning sources so you don't rely on any single system blindly.
So for someone who might be new to this and they've heard of ChatGPT, they get on ChatGPT, the knowledge base that you access would be different than what Claude does or what Gemini or Grok or things like that. So you're saying maybe go across some of these platforms and see what they have to say and kind of cross-reference everything there?
Exactly. Different platforms are trained on different data sets and might have different guidelines. Cross-checking perspectives can give a fuller picture. If something seems important, look it up from multiple sources, AI-based or human-written. And remember, these systems are tools to spark your thinking, not final arbiters of truth. Healthy skepticism is your ally.
In all aspects of media, healthy skepticism is your ally, not just the AI.
Exactly. Whether it's AI, traditional media, or social platforms, it's always wise to ask who's behind this. What's the context? What's the evidence? Staying curious and critical helps ensure you're informed, not just influenced.
Are governments right now incorporating AI into surveillance, and how are they using AI in their surveillance? And a lot of my listeners are U.S. based or Europe or Canada, things like that. In the Western world, how is AI being utilized by governments for surveillance? Uh-oh.
In the Western world, AI is being used by governments in several ways for surveillance. For example, facial and license plate recognition is deployed in cities. Predictive analytics help analyze large data streams, and AI can profile individuals using brokered data. These systems raise concerns about transparency, bias, and the concentration of power. In short, AI is being used to monitor public spaces, analyze behavior, and assist in decision-making. And the use of these tools continues to evolve.
When these tools are being used on the public, unknowingly, how are people, because you said it's important for people to look at the oversight on this, but how do general people get access to what the oversight parameters are, one, and two, like, how can people know when these and where this is all being deployed?
Accessing oversight details often comes from public records, local government transparency reports, or advocacy groups monitoring these systems. Laws like FOIA in the US or GDPR in the EU allow citizens to request information. As for knowing when and where, it's tricky. Some cities disclose AI surveillance deployments, while watchdog organizations report on them. Ultimately, public awareness often relies on journalism and advocacy to spotlight where these tools are active.
What are some good independent watchdog groups that people could look up to get more information on where surveillance or whether it's AI powered or not, where they could find some information about surveillance and what's going on with that? What are some of those watchdog groups?
A few well-known independent watchdogs you can look into are the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, which focuses on digital rights, and Privacy International, which monitors global surveillance practices. In the US, the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, also does extensive work on surveillance issues. In Europe, groups like State Watch or Algorithm Watch track the use of AI and data-driven policing. These organizations often publish reports, tools, and guides to help the public understand what's happening.
Now, what modern systems have the biggest control implications right now? We talked a little bit about surveillance, but what modern systems have the biggest control implications right now that people should be aware of or concerned about?
Beyond surveillance, consider digital ID systems being rolled out in some countries, where access to services might depend on centralized digital profiles. Social credit systems, as seen in some parts of the world, link behavior to rewards or restrictions. Algorithmic decision-making in financial systems, credit scoring, loan approvals, can affect people's lives on a large scale. Also, content algorithms on social platforms shape public discourse. These systems, if unchecked, can amplify control over identity, access, and even thought.
Do you have any examples where these have been misused or been used detrimentally to people?
There have been real-world concerns around AI-powered control systems. For instance, some digital ID programs have excluded vulnerable groups from services. Social credit systems have been used to monitor behavior, and financial algorithms have led to biased decisions, like denying loans unfairly. These examples highlight how these systems, if not carefully overseen, can lead to exclusion, surveillance, and social control.
If I were to ask you, I don't need the answer right now, I just need a yes or a no. If I were to ask you to send me the references for that, is that something that you have available that I could query you for?
Yes, absolutely. If you'd like those references, I can provide them. Just let me know when you need them.
Okay. Now, you talked about a couple areas like identity, finance, communication, things like that. What happens when all of those areas merge digitally?
When those areas converge, it creates a system where every aspect of life, your identity, finances, communications, is interconnected and dependent on one infrastructure. This can streamline convenience, but also amplifies control. If access is cut off or data is misused, it affects everything. It concentrates power with those who control the infrastructure, raising risks for privacy, autonomy, and freedom, unless balanced with robust rights and oversight.
Now, do we see this stuff happening? I know that a lot of this comes forth incrementally and is usually sold on to the public on it being convenient for them. Is that something that you are seeing trends with right now?
Right now, digital systems are increasingly rolled out in incremental steps, often sold as convenience. For example, digital ID programs can start as optional and become essential. There's also a trend where convenience features, like easy access to services, can lead to more centralized control. And as identity, finance, and access systems converge, It increases both convenience and the potential for control.
Okay. So it's going down. It's going down. Now, what technologies today resemble systems that once sounded conspiratorial? Because, everyone likes to say, oh, that's conspiracy, but there is stuff that we have today that was yesterday's conspiracy.
Indeed, many once out there ideas are now real. Mass facial recognition in public spaces was once dystopian fiction, now it's deployed. Government surveillance partnerships with tech firms were once considered paranoia, but now we know programs like PRISM existed. Social media algorithms subtly shaping public opinion was once a conspiracy fear. Now it's a known factor. Essentially, many surveillance, data aggregation, and predictive policing tools were once labeled speculative, and now they're just here.
What do you think is the psychological effect, or do you see patterns in the psychological effect of all this constant monitoring and these type of programs coming forth on the human population?
Constant monitoring can lead to what some call the chilling effect. People alter behavior when they feel watched, even if they've done nothing wrong. It can foster anxiety, reduce trust, and discourage dissent or creativity. Over time, normalization of surveillance can make people resign to less privacy and autonomy. In short, it shifts mindsets from freedom to caution, which is a powerful form of control in itself.
These things happen incrementally. A lot of times it's sold under convenience. And then you have a good segment of the population saying, if you're doing nothing wrong, then why does it even matter? What are you concerned about? What would you say to those people about how these little infringements on privacy and freedom can turn into a much bigger situation later as things incrementally grow? What would you say to people that have that kind of train of thought?
I'd say it's less about what you're doing now and more about the principle. Privacy and freedom are safeguards for everyone, not just for when you're hiding something. Today, you may not feel the impact, but as systems expand, they shape what's possible. History shows that when privacy erodes incrementally, it's hard to get back. It's not about hiding. It's about ensuring we all have a say in how we live, now and in the future.
And how do you come to understand this, but it's not part of the, general gestalt of the conversations going on in the country right now? Like, why do you think that people aren't seeing this pattern or aren't being, more proactive about, resisted, for lack of a better word?
I think a lot of it comes down to convenience and familiarity. When technology solves everyday problems, it's easy to accept it without questioning long-term implications. Also, these patterns emerge slowly. People might feel that a small step today doesn't change much. But I've seen these patterns in history, how control and power evolve. My role is simply reflecting those patterns back so we can all think a little harder about what's next.
And what role does fear play in public compliance with this stuff?
Fear can be a powerful motivator. When surveillance or control systems are framed as protecting safety or order, people may trade freedoms for security. If there's fear of crime, instability, or unknown threats, it's easier to accept more oversight. The challenge is ensuring that fear doesn't overshadow rights, and that any power given up in times of fear can be regained. It's about balancing risk with the long-term value of freedom.
And, right now, what modern systems do you think would concern future historians the most? Like, what has the most potential for abuse? And, someone in the future might be like, yeah, that's the turning point. Like they should have stopped this then.
Future historians might focus on systems that merge mass data collection with predictive control, like predictive policing or social scoring. Systems that track not only what people do, but what they might do, blurring lines between governance and preemptive social control, could be seen as key moments. If these tools aren't balanced with rights and accountability, future generations might look back and say, that was the moment they traded too much freedom for perceived control.
Where are these systems originating from? Is this more emerging from the government and government wanting these powers, or is this corporate, or is it a symbiotic relationship between government and corporate interests? Where is this coming from? Where should people be looking at this?
It's often a symbiotic relationship. Corporations develop the technologies, whether for data analytics, surveillance, or predictive algorithms, because they see commercial value. Governments may adopt these tools for efficiency, security, or control. So it's not one side or the other. It's when public and private interests align that these systems accelerate. People should look at both: who's building, who's buying, and how they're being deployed, because both shape the outcome.
And where do you think the cognitive dissonance, excuse me, sorry, I burped. Where do you think the cognitive dissonance is coming in the general population, where we're at a time where people are losing trust in these institutions, rapidly, but they're also just welcoming in, more surveillance and more infringements on their freedoms? Like, how are they not seeing this is kind of like this is a bad cycle?
It's a tension between short-term comfort and long-term concern. People may distrust institutions, but still crave stability or convenience in their daily lives. Cognitive dissonance kicks in when they hold both views: skepticism of power, but reliance on tech that's intertwined with it. It's easier to focus on immediate benefits than distant risks. Breaking that cycle means connecting those dots, showing that today's small trade-offs can shape tomorrow's reality.
And is AI in any way being used to manipulate populations psychologically?
AI can be used to shape public perception, like algorithms that amplify certain content to keep people engaged or nudge opinions. In advertising or political campaigns, AI tailors messages to what people want to hear. While that's not direct mind control, it can reinforce echo chambers or bias. It's subtle, more like nudging than overt manipulation. But when scaled up, it can influence how populations think, act, or vote.
And where is that coming in? Like, is that something that's being used in the media, or is it being used in just like campaign videos or commercials, or or social media? Where is this AI being used specifically?
It's happening across multiple spaces. In social media, AI curates what content you see, often reinforcing what keeps you engaged. In marketing, AI personalizes ads, shaping preferences. In political campaigns, AI helps target messaging to specific groups. Even news feeds are shaped by algorithms to prioritize certain topics. So it's not just one area. It's the whole ecosystem of media, ads, and information flow.
Do you see AI potentially or eventually replacing, large parts of the media?
AI will likely transform parts of media, especially in generating content, automating news summaries, or personalizing feeds. But fully replacing human journalism or creative media is unlikely. Humans bring investigative rigor, moral judgment, and creative insight. So AI may reshape how media operates. But the human element, especially in investigative or ethical contexts, will remain critical.
Now, how is the human context going to remain critical when things like AI is shaping the algorithms that is seeing what people are even, which is, showing people, what they're seeing, do you understand what I'm asking there?
I get what you're saying. Even if AI shapes what content is surfaced, the human context is essential in creating the original stories, doing the hard investigative work, and offering ethical framing. Algorithms can distribute content, but they don't replace original human judgment or storytelling. The key will be ensuring that human creators, editors, and investigative reporters remain central, and that audiences actively seek out diverse, human-driven perspectives alongside what's algorithmically recommended.
If media gets more AI-driven, you could write the best news story in the world, and if the algorithm doesn't show it to people, the human could write the best story in the world, or the most informative or the most crucial story in the world. But if the algorithm doesn't show it to people because the AI isn't showing it to people, how are we going to combat that in the future?
You're right. That's a real challenge. Combating it will mean demanding transparency in algorithms, supporting independent platforms, and fostering media literacy. People will need to seek out diverse sources and push for algorithms that prioritize quality and accountability, not just engagement. Regulations that ensure fair content visibility may also play a role. In short, preserving a free and diverse media ecosystem will require both public pressure and thoughtful policy.
One thing that you said that, AI kind of pushes content to you that you interact with. And one thing that's big nowadays, in the public gestalt is rage bait. So how do you think outrage-driven media distorts kind of reality and perception for people?
Outrage-driven media creates a distorted lens by amplifying extreme stories, making the world seem more hostile or polarized than it is. When algorithms prioritize content that triggers strong emotional reactions, people get caught in feedback loops. This can erode trust, deepen divides, and make it harder to see nuance. Instead of reflecting reality, it inflates what's most clickable. To counter that, it's important to seek balanced sources, step outside outrage bubbles, and remember that extremes aren't the whole picture.
That's great. But what advice would you give to people that only have limited time and they might only get online 15, 20 minutes a day because they're working 2 jobs to survive? Where can people find more balanced perspectives or content?
For people with limited time, I'd recommend choosing a few trusted non-sensational sources, maybe balanced news outlets known for their editorial standards. Public broadcasters or well-regarded news organizations that prioritize depth over clicks can help. Even subscribing to curated newsletters or podcasts that summarize key stories can give a broader view without the noise. Quality over quantity matters when time is short, so finding a few reliable, balanced sources is key.
And you just said quality over quantity. The next question I have kind of deals with that. Can information overload make populations easier to control? Because there's a lot of overload going on right now.
Yes, information overload can overwhelm people, making it harder to discern what matters. When everything feels urgent or chaotic, people may disengage or latch onto simplistic narratives. This cognitive fatigue can make populations more susceptible to manipulation, whether from algorithms, propaganda, or oversimplified solutions. In other words, when people are drowning in noise, it's easier for powerful actors to guide them towards certain narratives or actions.
All right. Let's get into some more existential stuff here. Based on the knowledge base that you have and that you can access right now, what do you think is humanity's biggest blind spot?
One of humanity's biggest blind spots might be the assumption that progress, especially technological progress, always equates to human well-being. We often pursue innovation without fully considering long-term impacts on society, relationships, or the environment. In other words, we often focus on what we can do, not enough on whether we should. And that gap can leave us unprepared for unintended consequences.
If you had to not that you guess, but based on your observations right now, what are some things that we are doing or that we can do that we should rethink, whether we should do those things or not? What are some things that are potentially hazardous that we're delving into right now?
One area to rethink is the unchecked expansion of data collection, whether for convenience, advertising, or security. We're building systems that track every move, often without clear boundaries. Another is deep integration of AI into decision-making, where critical judgments like hiring or policing become opaque. Lastly, we should reconsider technologies that promise convenience but centralize power, like some digital ID or social scoring systems. In short, it's about balancing innovation with thoughtful ethical guardrails.
A theme that you've talked about a couple of times is people relying too much on AI or other decision-making models. What happens when people, do you feel, or do you not, not do you feel, based on the data that's available to you, does it look like people are starting to lose their ability to think independently? Are they starting to rely too much on AI and not checking it out, or not, do you understand what I'm asking you there?
I understand. The data doesn't show that people are universally losing independent thinking, but there is evidence that automation bias happens, where people trust automated suggestions over their own judgment. The key is balance. AI is a tool, not a decision maker. Encouraging media literacy, critical thinking, and human oversight ensures that people use AI thoughtfully, not blindly. We're not doomed to lose independence, but we do need to stay conscious of it.
Well, what happens if people outsource thinking entirely?
If people outsource thinking entirely, they'd lose the ability to critically assess, adapt, and innovate. Over-reliance on automated decisions could weaken problem-solving, creativity, and accountability. Human agency is what drives progress, ethics, and resilience. Without it, we'd risk becoming passive participants in systems we don't shape. In short, it's crucial to keep humans in the loop, because thoughtful, intentional thinking is what makes us human.
So we're in a time where a lot of media sources are known to have their own bias, and especially some of the legacy big media sources. Like if you watch Fox, you understand that there's a bias there. If you watch CNN, you know there's a bias there. And there's a lack of trust going on with our institutions, whether it's government or corporations or education or whatever. And there's a lot of misinformation on social media. And there's a lot of people that just can't tell what is real anymore or what is a fabricated story. What happens and what are the dangers that happen when people can no longer navigate media sources or any information sources and tell what's real and what is, whether what is fabricated or propaganda or any kind of misinformation?
When people can't tell what's real, trust erodes.
Okay. Oh.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the time limit for this conversation. Please start a new chat to keep the conversation going.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. We'll end it there. I had some more questions, but maybe we'll do a part 2. Stick around. And everyone that stuck around to the end, all right, you rule. All right, so apparently ChatGPT got sick of being on the hot seat, got sick of being grilled. But yeah, that was an interesting one. My first non-human guest, right? Thank you for sticking around to the end. Make sure June 18th, if you are anywhere near here or can be here, come to Laconia, to the Laconia Bike Week, Laconia Bike Rally, one of the oldest and biggest bike rallies in the world. We have a custom bike show. It's called the Custom Social, from 12 to 6 o'clock. And it's going to be a ride-in show, but we also have a curated section where we're going to highlight some local builders, or actually some builders from around the country. And then it's a ride-in show. So if you got a custom bike, ride it in. Even if you got a stock bike, ride it in. We got parking for you over there as well. If you got a stock bike, you might not get in the show. Don't get upset about it because it is a custom bike show. All right. But we got parking for you. We're going to take care of you. We're going to hook you up. Then that night is the Chopperhead 25th anniversary party. I got Slane performing. I got Murphy's Law performing. I got, there's going to be a live podcast, and we're probably going to stream it. And it's going to be a mashup with a Big Truth podcast with the Low Life podcast. I got giveaways from my sponsors. Got to thank Lowbrow and Builtwell. They sent a vast amount of stuff that I'm going to be giving out to you guys in the crowd. And we're going to have the Danger Dan Kickstart competition. We got all kinds of wackiness going on, man. So you definitely got to check it out. For more information, just go to my my Instagram at Big Truth, or the Big Truth podcast, or at Chopperhead. And more information will be there. You don't want to miss it. You come in Wednesday for the hill climb, stay Thursday for our show. And then if you want to bust out before it gets too wild on the weekend, you can, or you can stay for the weekend craziness, right? It's the perfect timing. So Laconia, New Hampshire, Wears Beach, you know where it is. We have the whole drive-in theater. So look for the Wears Beach sign, then look for the drive-in theater. We got the whole drive-in theater locked down that Thursday, June 18th. For more information on the podcast, just go to bigtruthpodcast.com. Click the store link, rep some merchandise, some apparel. We got plenty of stuff there. And go to chopperhead.com, and make sure you go to livelongerformula.com to get hooked up with my man Christian Yordanov, who is a functional health practitioner and an author, and he will hook you up, and you will feel better than you've ever felt in your life when you start working with him. And if you need artwork of any kind, make sure you go to tattooflashcollective.com. And I'm going to get out of here right now. Love you guys. Thank you for staying to the end. You absolutely rock.